Hi, my name is Nirmal Singh, and I welcome you to watch the following video from our May 28th, 2024 Kundalini Yoga Teacher Training Information Session. Enjoy. So I just want to talk to you a little bit about me as an introduction. And I come out of an advertising background. So I was in that full-time for a really long time. From the late 70s through 2002, essentially. And then at that point in time, I'd already been involved with yoga. Got exposed to that. I think it was in 94 I took my, or 95, I think I took my first class. But in 2002, I made a concerted effort to switch here my profession, and I moved into wellness full time. And so I've had over 20 years, in yoga with workshops and trainings and classes. But I also branched into event production as well. And so I produce concerts, or I have over the years produced concerts for people like Sanatana Kaur and Deva Premal Miten and so forth. And so I continue to do a little bit of that still. Which is really fun, really exciting for me. And this is all under the umbrella, The Wellness Path, that business I set up back in 2004. So I've been a teacher, Kundalini Yoga teacher since 99, and a trainer since 2006, and a lead trainer since 2015. And one of the things that I learned along the way in my trainer process with working with Sanatana Kaur was her work in the addiction recovery area. And she created a program called Beyond Addiction, the Yoga Path to Recovery in 2008. And so I've been working also in that area since then. And in fact, the focus of my classes for the last little while have been within this particular body of work we'll call it Beyond Addiction, or Changing Your Habits is how I refer to it with the yoga practice that I've been doing, or yoga series I've been doing. And speaking of Gabor Mate, then with the exposure that we had working with him in the Beyond Addiction program, which he is a part of, then Sanatana created with him this program called Compassionate Inquiry. And that is essentially his work. So if you don't know him, he's quite renowned in the recovery field, both trauma and addiction recovery. And so his work was created, or a course rather, that was created around his particular way of approaching the work that he does. And it's called Compassionate Inquiry. So I got involved with that on the ground floor, and I've been doing, work in that area for the last little while as a coach. And more recently, I've launched a program called Humble Lion Coaching, which I'm really excited about doing this year. And it's just kind of a build on the stuff I've been doing for the last few years. I moved out of Toronto. I live now in Brantford with my wife, Birkor. We got married in 2016. And from an earlier marriage, I have also 2 adult kids living in Toronto. And that's my lovely dog, Lottie, there that you might see in the top left corner. So she and Beer and I live here in Brantford, Ontario. That's a little bit about me. All right, and now tonight, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk a little bit about Kundalini Yoga as a practice, just touch on that, and cover off a couple of topics that show up, of course, in our training, but they show up in our practice that I think are if they're not unique, they're certainly important components of our practice. And so we do, of course, dig into those among many topic areas in teacher training. I'd like to go over the actual course requirements to you so that if you sign up for a program like this, you know exactly, what you're into. And leave a little bit of time, of course, to get into a Q&A. Okay, so any questions so far? Are we good to go? All right. All right, so a question might be, well, why are you here tonight? And it's interesting because there's we could think of this as maybe three reasons that might draw someone to consider teacher training at this time. And one is out of necessity, another out of possibility, and a third out of a calling. And here's what I mean a little bit by that. So out of necessity, this might be something where you just feel, it's time, where you want to dig a little bit deeper into an understanding of yourself. And this might come about because of something that's showing up at this time, or maybe for some time has been showing up in your life, whether it's, pain or frustration, or something that's going on where you're a little bit at loose ends and you want to dig deeper into an understanding of what's going on and what makes you tick, And so this is absolutely, I think, something that teacher training can bring you very close to. The second is maybe just out of the possibility of this, you might have gotten excited by the idea of doing some teacher training. Perhaps somebody else that's done it, and we're very enthusiastic about that, and so that feels like something that you'd like to experience for yourself. And the third here, calling, and this is where maybe it's a little bit harder to put your finger on, but where you just feel drawn to exploring your infinite nature a little bit more deeply, and that might be a little bit hard to define what that is or what that means right now, but you just have this kind of tug to want to understand all of this a little bit more deeply than what you've been able to at this point in time. So let's just step back and talk a little bit about the Kundalini yoga practice. So it sounds like people on this call have all at least been exposed to some Kundalini yoga, and that's awesome. Occasionally there'll be people that walk into a Kundalini yoga teacher training where they've done no Kundalini yoga, but they just see, hey, there's a training and I'd like to check it out. So anyway, some of this might feel a little bit familiar, so it'll be a very short review of that. But even to step back a bit further, it's like, let's look at not just Kundalini yoga. What is yoga? What's yoga? And yoga as a word comes from a biblical word, yoke, and a Sanskrit word, yug. And what does yug mean? But to join together or to unite. And so what is it that we're uniting? Well, we're uniting, and this applies really to all yoga, we're uniting our finite and our infinite consciousness, the known with more of the unknown, this kind of physical human essence that we are with something else, that's bigger than that. So it's about bringing, these two aspects of ourselves very much together. So Kundalini yoga, and again, if you've been around the practice a little bit, you might have heard this expression, the Kundalini yoga is the technology of awareness. And that sounds a little bit vague. And so what I would say is, what is this awareness of? Well, it's awareness of who you are and your identity. So it's about understanding on a deeper level both of these aspects of us, the finite and the infinite parts. It's also a method, if you will, of being able to break our unconscious limitations. So, the things that hold us back in life that, again, are very often very difficult for us to define. And we will dig quite deeply into an understanding of the mind. And insofar as we do that, it is also helpful then we can understand a little bit more around, these unconscious limitations and how to, move through those. So this is very much about how we explore our true potential as human beings here, living on the planet at this point in time, how we can explore that through practices like this Kundalini yoga practice. All right, so what is it that we're engaging with when we involve ourselves with Kundalini yoga? Well, we can recognize that we're moving, on this continuum from maybe unawareness to awareness, however we might define that. And so we can think of this as a natural or a gradual unfolding of coming to terms with our true nature. This is who we are. In our practice, we talk about our Satnam, our true identity. So it's that. So it's about this process of growth, but we encounter blocks all along the way. And these blocks, of course, are, you know, attachments very often to our past, to, things that maybe have gone on in our past that we haven't been able to totally resolve yet. These blocks also might come from our fear of what's coming ahead of us, not just what's perhaps driven us from our past. So this, we might have this reticence to really explore, our full potential, and that's very understandable. So, I think as we engage with a process like Kundalini Yoga teacher training, we start to examine these parts of ourselves, our attitudes, our behaviors, our habits. And, again, through a process of understanding this more deeply, through this greater awareness, then we can do something about that. We have practices that will help us move through that. So through this program, I do believe that we gain new perspectives and capacities and habits to support ourselves as we are growing. Again, this will seem familiar to you if you've done a Kundalini yoga class, because this is very typically then what you might get exposed to. A 90-minute class, sometimes they're a little bit shorter, like 75 minutes, but a typical class might be 90 minutes that involves, a breath practice perhaps, or some warm-up exercises, followed by a Kriya, which is yoga asana postures, commonly with movement of some sort, followed by a relaxation, and then a meditation. So that is commonly what a Kundalini Yoga class structure looks like. And so this is very much the kind of structure then that you'll get exposed to and have practice with, in a teacher training program. The wonderful thing about this practice, and again, if you've done other kinds of yoga, you may be drawn to Kundalini Yoga because you might feel that it's a powerful experience, that and this is not uncommon, that people will notice some particular or specific shift in their state, even with a single class. This isn't like something that needs to build over time. You might feel something quite profound, and that's because we work with what we call kriyas, and kriya means completed action. So this isn't so much like something that kind of builds from class experience to class experience necessarily. This is something complete in and of itself. So that's why you might feel something, quite profound, even with a single class. I'm going to just touch on a couple of topic areas that, I think are really powerful in our practice. And some of them I think are quite unique to our practice. And the first one is going to be sound and mantra that I'll talk to. This is a distinguishing feature, Kundalini Yoga, because we sound out mantra, or engage, let's say, with mantra. It might be silent as well as out loud. And we experience that really right off the bat at the beginning of class, right? We tune in with the Adi mantra, Om Namo Gurudev Namo. We tune out with the longtime sun blessing. And then in between that beginning and ending, then often there'll be meditation that includes chanting. And sometimes chanting will even appear in kriyas as well. And even when we're not vocalizing chants, we have opportunities to engage with mantra on a vibratory level, silent level. And again, in classes, you might often hear your teachers guiding you to inhale Sat and exhale Nam, where we bring the mantra onto the breath. So there's an opportunity here to be constantly bringing, these sacred sound syllables onto your breath and into the movements that you're doing. Because again, typically we're in a Kriya, for instance, we're inhaling and exhaling, in relation to what we're doing with movement. So let's step back for a moment here and, what is this mantra? What is this whole thing about? We have to look at then what is sound. And we understand that the entire universe is built on sound, is built on vibration. And importantly, this isn't just about what you might vibrate as you open your mouth and utter a sound, but it's also even what you're thinking. Even what you're thinking has a vibration attached to it, and so it's powerful, and this is why it's again important for us to watch our words, even mentally, apart from what we might be vocalizing. So what is this about? Well, we have this understanding then that we're connecting to a particular sound current that we refer to as the nod through these sacred sound syllables. And that's all well and good, but how do we do that? And of course, this is just going to be spending a couple of moments on this for an understanding, but I'd like to share with you that what we are doing when we're vocalizing these sacred sound syllables is that we're engaging with meridian points on the roof of the mouth, and there's 84 of these points in total. 64 of them are on the hard palate, so just on the upper palate of the mouth, right behind the upper teeth. There's 64 points there. That's the hard palate, and then if you use your tongue and reach backwards, that's the soft palate, and so there are meridian points back there as well that we engage with. As we vocalize what we vocalize, you can kind of feel when you're talking, like I can feel right now, that my tongue, if I pay attention to it, is touching on different points in the roof of my mouth. So you can think about these connections then that the tongue is making with the roof of the mouth as stimulating these meridian points I'm referring to. And it's kind of like a computer keyboard that we're playing with our tongue that's connecting to the brain, to the hypothalamus in the brain. And as we connect with the hypothalamus, then it transmits signals to the pituitary. The pituitary gland, you might understand, is the master gland. And so it has a relationship then with all the other glands in the body. So think about that for a moment. So we're tongue hits the roof of the mouth, connects to the hypothalamus, connects to the pituitary, connects to the entire then endocrine system. So we have this opportunity then through chanting to actually have this huge chemical reaction take place in our body, in our whole system. And so that's kind of the power of what's going on from a scientific standpoint. So let's test this out for a minute, just so I'm just not talking here about this, but you get to actually try it out for yourself. So, you're muted there. That's great. I'll leave myself unmuted, and I'd like you to chant this sound syllable with me. La. Just la, 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 and keep doing that. And notice where on the upper palate your tongue is engaging. La, 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 la. And for me, it's right behind the upper teeth. La, 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 la. Okay. Now let's try Ong. So you'll know this from the audio mantra, Om Namo Gurudev Namo. So let's just do this. Ong, 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 Ong. So as you do that sound, continue to do that, and notice where the tongue is in relation to where it was before. Now, see where it is now in the roof of your mouth. Ong, ong. And you can also kind of ong, ong. You can feel if you have your hand on your crown, ong, ong. You can also feel a vibration there as well. La, 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 la. That's not there the same way when you go la, la, la. So you can feel that there's something quite different going on as you engage with different sound syllables. All right, so that's just, again, a little taste of how chanting works. All right, I'm going to pause for a moment, and actually I'm going to, let's see here. Yeah. I'm just going to ask, is there anything, you have any questions about anything that I talked about so far? And if not, I can keep going and I'll take another break later. So good to go. All right. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about breath, because this is a really important part of our practice as well. And we do look at breath from two aspects. We look at it from maybe the more obvious one, which is the respiratory system. So we do talk about, engage with Western anatomy in teacher training. But importantly, we also engage with yogic anatomy. And within the kind of yogic area, then we look at pranayama, that expression of breath. So we recognize that we have this kind of gross expression of it, this very conscious expression of it, through the respiratory system. And then we have this more subtle expression of it we call pranayama or prana, life force energy. And, so on a gross level, we recognize, we're working with oxygen and nitrogen and other elements. And as I just mentioned, we can, as we look at prana or life force, we recognize that this is our way then that we energize the mind and the body and also consciousness. So breath is a really important component about how it is we live and breathe and move through the world, both on a human, but also on a higher consciousness level as well. So the question is, how do you breathe? Because that's going to be pretty fundamental to us, because most of us aren't that consciously aware of how we're breathing. Yes, very much so in yoga and in yoga class, we make an effort, but, outside of class, what are the habits, I guess, that you have around your own unconscious way of breathing? Because most people don't breathe correctly. Most people, due to all kinds of things that might be going on in their lives, might be breathing in a way that's very adaptive to the nature of the life that they're leading at any given moment in time. And we develop then sometimes very poor habits around how we breathe. I know for me, for instance, my tendency, particularly before I got engaged with yoga at all, was to be a very shallow breather and be a very have like short breaths and be very much in the upper chest area. Not good. But very much stress is going to have an impact on how our breath is showing up for us. And I think this is really important to understand, not only for ourselves to go deeply into that personal understanding, because it will affect, of course, how you show up in life, but also to recognize, when we're in that kind of teacherly mode, this is the person that's also coming to your class as well, And so I think understanding the nature of this is really important. We recognize then and engage with pranayama as a way to, settle our system, to expand, our ability to be able to bring in as much prana and oxygen as we can. And as we slow our breath down, it has a very powerful impact on us. So, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. But importantly, the breath has an impact on the mind. And I love this maxim, which is the mind follows the breath and the body follows the mind. So even looking at that first half, this is saying that if I consciously control how I breathe, I can have a very positive impact on what's going on in my mind. But it also, the extension of that means then that since the body follows the mind, then through my breath, I can also have an impact through the mind on my physical state of being as well. So again, this is all work that we engage with in the teacher training. And this is an interesting factoid, that normal breathing patterns, and I would say it's gotten worse because these studies are a little bit dated now, like pre-pandemic. But a normal, i.e., an average breathing cycle might be for men around 16 to 18 breaths a minute, and for women a little bit faster than that. And so what does that mean? Well, that translates into a breath that's 2 seconds in and 2 seconds out. If it's 2 in and 2 out, that's 4 seconds. 4 times 15 is 60. So, that means, and that's a little bit slower than 16 to 18. I'm saying 15 means 2 seconds in and 2 seconds out, and so that's pretty quick when you think about it. That's like inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. And that's just your typical average pattern. When we're stressed, it might get quicker and more shallow as a result. So what do we do in yoga typically is that we strive to slow these breath patterns down, slow them down and go more deeply into our breath. And so if we were to slow that down by half, we're going from 15, say, to 8 cycles, that's like 4 seconds in and 4 seconds there. That's like sa, ta, na, ma on the inhale, sa, ta, na, ma on the exhale. If we slow our breath down to that state, we understand that we're able then to get out of that kind of stress response, which is more sympathetic nervous system in nature, and slow it down and get into our parasympathetic nervous system, that kind of rest and digest and recover aspect of us. So what we feel more relaxed and we're able to release our stress from others. So, that's what we're engaging with. So we go into, a deeper understanding and practice of working with different kinds of breath in order to engage the mind differently and in order to create a more healthy mental and physical state for ourselves. Because all of these things, are wrapped up together, including, how they impact our spiritual nature as well. All right, so I am going to stop here for a moment and take a breath and just ask you if you have any questions or comments at this point in time. Because again, that was just a really kind of brief hit on some of these aspects of what we engage with Kundalini yoga and teacher training.
I personally have no questions so far. I feel like I'm already receiving so much information and so many good takeaways. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
really excited. I feel like I'm absorbing a lot.
Oh, good. All right. Well, again, it's just really meant to give you a little taste of it right now
Yeah,
and whet your appetite for more because we do a lot in 180 hours
I know. I'm so
of
excited.
class time. So yeah, awesome. Well, thanks for sharing. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about a KRI certified. KRI stands for Kundalini Research Institute. So that's kind of our governing body. And so it's a KRI certified teacher training program because there are other programs that you might come across out there, pardon me, that call themselves Kundalini Yoga training. All right, here we go. Boom, boom. Okay, so this is what I offer through my business, Wellness Path. And what will you get then through this program? Well, you receive a thorough grounding in all the basics of Kundalini Yoga. And the program itself then is a blend of lecturing, reading on your part, and lots of yoga and meditation to give you a really powerful, deep experience. Uh, you'll receive personal guidance from the teacher training team and feedback in key teaching skills. And you get lots of practice with teaching. And the reason for that is we don't want to kind of like throw everything at you all at once as you do a practicum towards the end of the year. So we give you lots of experience of getting up and speaking. Some of you might already have that anyway, particularly if you've had some experience in other yoga practices as teachers, or maybe in other aspects of what you do in the world, where you get up in front of other people. But we want to make sure that you're comfortable being able to sit in front of other people and share what you have to share. And so we give you little bits of opportunities to teach really throughout the year. And then ultimately it all builds towards, this practice teaching builds towards being able to teach a full-on session class, a 90-minute class on your own in front of your peers. So that's kind of what we build incrementally up to. experiencing. But because why? And because again, we want you to feel confident when you graduate from this class to be able to go out and teach on day one. And then also I've included here, why do this? Well, you do get introduced to a community of like-minded souls, that are looking towards self-improvement through healing, personal and maybe healing of others, and also professional development, so that is a community that you'll engage with. I mentioned this KRI, Kundalini Research Institute. So you will have that certification through that governing body. It also, for what it's worth, it also meets all the requirements of a 200-hour Yoga Alliance membership, if that's important to you. And you get membership in our own teachers federation called the International Kundalini Yoga Teachers Association. And the course itself does pay for your first year's membership. That's included in your course fee. Get that. Oops. Let's see here. So now I'm going to jump into course requirements. So it's important that you attend all classroom hours. You have an opportunity to do that in person or online, and or both, because there'll be people that are doing both depending on the circumstances of any given weekend. There's a requirement to attend 20 Kundalini Yoga classes at the start of this program. So during the teacher training or after, if you need to continue beyond the end of the formal course training period, with a KRI certified teacher, that's important. And then additionally, you need to attend 5 early morning sadhanas. And again, if that's new languaging to you, it's referring to our early morning practice. It starts at 4 a.m., 4 to 6:30. So it's typically about 2.5 hours, and it follows a very particular structure. And again, I don't need to go into detail about that here now, but you'll be required to do that at least 5 times over the course of this 12-month program. So it's not hard to do, and it's something that is available to 7 days a week at the location where this teacher training takes place in downtown Toronto. But you'll have an opportunity to do your classes, whether it's the 20 classes or the sadhanas, in a combination of in-person and online. And again, I can talk about that later if necessary. Another requirement is to attend a meditation day intensive. So we have White Tantric Yoga, which has been on hiatus since 2019. We just actually had the course in Toronto on May the 4th. So recently it's come back to Toronto as it is just, again, re-emerging in other locations as well. But there's an option as well to do an alternative all-day meditation intensive with another program, one that I make available to people at another point in time in the year. So the tantric course, like in 2025 for the upcoming training, will also be in May. And then as I'm doing this year and as I did last year, I'll have another meditation intensive alternative in the fall, in September. Another is that, and I've already talked a little bit about it, you will conduct a student practicum and need to pass that. But again, that's not hard to do. And if there's any aspect of it that we feel really needs more work, then you would have an opportunity to do another one, so that's never an impediment. We just continue to work until somebody is comfortable and ready to teach. Sorry, it's not automatically going forward as it's meant to here. All right, I'm going to hit the button. Okay, another requirement is to do a 40-day meditation practice. So one of the beautiful things that we engage with, and it does relate very much to the whole discussion of the mind, is about forming and breaking habits. And, we're looking to, to minimize our demoting habits or break our demoting and maximize and add, promoting habits, things that kind of move us in a positive way towards whatever our goals are, both, temporal and spiritual. So, one of the important things that we engage with then is to do 40-day practices, because we say it takes 40 days to make a habit, to create a habit. So you in the level 1 training have an opportunity then to do this, 31-minute meditation for 40 consecutive days. And you'll have a couple of opportunities to do that through the year. The other thing that you are required to do, again, sets you up well for when you graduate, is you need to prepare 2 curricula. One is an 8-week class series, and the second is like a half day or a full day workshop around a theme that can be a theme that's near and dear to your heart. So when you, again, finish the program, you'll be all set to teach, because you'll have already classes ready to teach or a workshop ready to teach. We do have an exam also that you need to get a passing grade on, 75%. We also provide monthly quizzes. So every time that we cover like the curriculum topics on a given weekend, the following, leading into the following weekend, there's a quiz. So you have an opportunity then for the month to integrate and study the work that you've done on the previous weekend and just get ready for the upcoming quiz. And lastly, we have a code of ethics that we live by. And so we go through that. And of course, that's something that is a requirement for all Kundalini Yoga teachers to sign off on if they want to be a Kundalini Yoga teacher. All right, so those are I believe, all the course requirements. And I'll spend a minute or two here just talking a little bit about some of these other pieces that might be important to you. So cost, the course is $35.99 for adults. And that's the early bird rate. That's up to December. For what it's worth, if you're on this call, I will also offer a discounted rate, as I did last May for a couple of people that chose to want to, take advantage of that and commit a little bit earlier. So I can even take a little bit off the $35.99 for those that want to start earlier. Like for instance, even with a payment plan. The regular rate is $38.99. There is a 10% discount for full-time students and for seniors over 65. I'm also offering BIPOC subsidies for 2 students, which are 25% off. So that's available to those that qualify as Black, Indigenous, or a person of color, and have any kind of need around financial subsidy. The other thing is that I do have fairly generous payment plans I make available to people if that's important. This cost does include your Aquarian teacher manual and textbook, and that is, there's a 300-page textbook and separate yoga manual as well. So that's included in the price. And important to note that the cost excludes, though, pardon me, your 20 classes and your meditation requirement, your intensive requirement. Okay. Oops, there we go. My mouse has a mind of its own here. All right, and here's me and Eva, who's offline at the moment, and Ekon Kar, who comes in as a wonderful teacher from Texas that comes in and teaches the history of Kundalini Yoga and history of yoga section in our course. And there are other teachers, this is just kind of the core group, and then we bring other people in from time to time. Got an incredible teacher, trainer, musician who's based in Italy at this point in time. He came in, like, taught in our sound and mantra weekend in April. I also bring in a vocal training specialist who's not a Kundalini yoga teacher, but is a practitioner. But she comes in on our sound and mantra weekend as well. So we do some vocal training work with her. And I bring in a diversity, equity, inclusion yoga trainer as well into one of the weekends in the course, a little bit later in the year. So we have a nice kind of round the group of people that come. There's another junior trainer that comes in and teaches as well in the course, Simran. And occasionally we'll bring in some seasoned teachers as well to come in and do some of the yoga teaching as well from time to time as well. So you get a good kind of variety, a good mix of people coming into the teacher training weekends. What does this look like? It's 180 classroom hours and 40 self-study hours. So it's like a 220-hour course. I mentioned already that we're located in downtown Toronto, College Bathurst area. So it's the ashram, which is on Palmerston, just north of College. It's also available online. So what we do is we are simultaneously, teaching online and in person. We do not record the training, and it is not available like as a self-study. So it's, as I mentioned early on, the requirement is you need to attend live. And if for any reason you can't attend any parts of this live, there are opportunities to make that up, but they do need to be made up somehow live. As I say, it's not something you can just kind of cover off as a self-study. So anyway, but we have mechanisms to allow for that, because sometimes, just simply happens that people can't be there for a day or part of a day, and sometimes an entire weekend. So we do what we can to give you options to how to make that up. It is 11 weekends over 11 months. So they're 2-day weekends. So Saturday and Sunday, starting in January. So Jan through July. August, there's no teacher training weekend. And then we go September to December. But in August, we do have 1-day intensive day. So that is the day, pardon me, when most people will do their practicum session with. So we just go kind of back to back to back to back teacher trainings between myself and Eva and Simran. We just kind of divide and conquer, and you get a chance to practice with a couple of other people in your group that time. So that awesome, because then that gets taken care of in August. And then, as I mentioned already, there's oh, maybe that's not there, but in September, the meditation takes place, the meditation intensive day. And there's, again, a snapshot of those days. Again, all of these are available also on my website, and I'll give you that information at the end so you can review that. Okay, so why take Kundalini or teacher training? Well, again, if you're drawn to it, it's because you want to explore something, probably something about yourself. Maybe you just feel this burgeoning desire to share, with other people. And I think that that's awesome. So on a personal level, though, we know that these practices can have huge benefits. We work on the nervous system in a big way, on the circulatory system, on the glandular system, and so what? Like, why do we do this? Well, we know, again, maybe through our own personal experience with this, and we certainly will know, one does know at the end of training, that this has the power to switch anything and everything that's going on within me fairly quickly if I want to, so I can switch my mood, I can switch my state of mind, I can deal with my vitality, with my energy really quickly, through these practices. And so this is another maxim that I love. It's like, if you want to master something, you teach it. So if this is something that really kind of is drawing you in some way, shape, or form, you'll not know something ever, I think, as well as you will when you put yourself in a position where actually you're sharing this with other people. It's how do I get this out of my head, and into my being? And you do this by sharing with other people. And this isn't about, this isn't like my teaching. This is about how I can kind of integrate the teachings of this practice so that they move and flow through me. And so this is something I think that we are able to nurture in time and master. And this is, I think, very much, what we're engaging with. How do I bring, not the limitations of my human nature, perhaps, to bear so much, and how can I really tap into that more infinite part of me and engage with that, as I engage with other people. Both of these parts are important. So this is an important point in time in our history, right? We're going through, this age that, some have labeled the Aquarian age. And it's like, wow. And just seeing what's going on in the world, again, coming into and through and coming out of the pandemic and the other things that are going on now in the world. I mean, people are looking for help, for assistance, for support. And this is very much which we as teachers, are showing up and being called on, I think, at this time. So you have something to share with other people. And this isn't just about teaching class. This is about you just showing up and being you. And this is, I believe, very much what this training program will give you. It will get you to be more in touch with who you are on a deeper level and to really come into your own. And I think in a big way. All right, and just a moment on me. And I offer, Kundalini yoga classes on Thursday nights. I already mentioned at the outset of this. They're themed right now. It's around this Beyond Addiction program, I call the Yoga to Change Habits here. So that's my online class. I offer it through my website as well as through Lotus. Lotus, I'll just mention again, lotusyogacenter.com is a good resource for both in-person and online classes. But there are other resources as well in the city. And as I mentioned, and if you reach out to me, I can always provide you with a contact with Ina, to get on the emailing list, for the monthly newsletter that goes out about everything that's going on in our practice in and around, the GTA mostly. And TheWellnessPath.ca, that's my website. So that's how you can reach out to me. And you probably already have that information anyway, from the information I've shared with you offline so far. All right.
Yes, thank you, Nirmal, for that beautiful presentation. I am very, very happy to be on the team with him. And it is just, I love teacher training. I love being a part of your transformation that you guys go through. It is very profound. We pour our hearts and our souls into it, and just watching you guys blossom into this most amazing version of yourself and being teachers is like profoundly satisfying for me. I live in the ashram at the Guru Ramdas ashram, and I've been in this practice for over a decade now, and I've been doing yoga since I was 16, and so I'm approaching 40 now. So just it's been a while. I've done it all, and Kundalini was pretty much the last yoga that I tried, and I immediately fell in love. I was actually trained in Los Angeles, so which is where the founder of this yoga in the West, or who brought it here, that's where he ended up. He was here in Toronto briefly, and then he ended up there. And so I was able to kind of experience and draw from some amazing people in our community. And I didn't realize what a point in time that was for me now that I look back. So yeah, I love the community. I love that we are bringing something new into the world, the teachings of the Aquarian age. I am also a personal trainer at Equinox, the gym. I've had a few incarnations in my life. I was an actress in Los Angeles as well. And I'm single. I'm also certified to teach children's yoga. And yeah, I am now mentoring and part of the academy for, this is will be my 3rd year by the time you guys come around. So it's another level of how you can engage in the community if one day you decide you want to be a teacher trainer. There's levels to Kundalini yoga as well. You're doing the level 1 course if you choose to, then there's level 2 and level 3, and there's what we call the academy. And so I have done it all, and I'm a part of the academy now for 3 years. So yeah, that's about it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Nice
Thank
to
you so
meet
much. Thank you for watching the video from our May 28th, 2024 information session. We have a wonderful Kundalini Yoga teacher training program starting in January 2025. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or want to learn more. Thanks so much.